Welcome. For the next 10 minutes or so, we'd like to invite you to just close your eyes, relax as the music plays, invoke the presence, and just hold space.
Sakala Vigna Kara Dura
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang is simply a Sanskrit word that literally means community of truth. In this case, we might just call it a spiritual community. Wherever two or more people on the path of awakening and transformation come together, we have a satsang. We share presence, we share our light, our peace, and we catalyze one another. It's a very powerful and important piece of the spiritual journey for every one of us. So glad you can join us. Flowering Heart Satsang is not a formal kind of thing. There's nothing really to join. We have people who join us from all over the world in different continents and countries who spend time with various spiritual teachers, have different belief systems, spiritual and religious backgrounds. What we have in common is that we're all on the path of awakening, the flowering of our hearts in oneness, in divine union. So, glad you're here. During these satsangs, we devote, after about 10 minutes of just holding space in the presence, we open it to questions and answers about the spiritual journey in general. Even better if it's about your spiritual journey and what you might be encountering during your spiritual practices or just in the ongoingness of your path. We all have unique journeys. They're not exactly the same, and yet they often parallel and mirror one another, and we all seem to go through a lot of the same challenges in the journey. So when you share in a satsang what you're experiencing, seeking more clarity, more light on a particular area, it helps everybody. There's a resonance that goes through the entire group, and it actually moves the divine presence to inspire some of the answers and insights that we share with you. So go right ahead. It could be anything. It could be philosophical about spirituality or awakening, God realization. But again, it seems to be more poignant when it's something that's really touching you, that you're musing over, that you're trying to get more clarity and light about. So if you're with us on Facebook Live, you can just type it in the chat. If you're at Vimeo, you can type it in the chat there, and we'll be checking back and forth. It's just nice to see you all. Oh yeah, and if you're with us on Facebook Live, either now or you're watching the recording of the satsang, because people watch it all through the night, over the next week, many people will be watching it that aren't here with us right at the moment. And it's great if you'll give us a like or a love, a little thumbs up or a heart, because then we can go in and it'll show us your name. And then we know you were here, and we can send you special hugs and blessings. Well, Brother Sage asks, or answers at the same time.
Okay.
Who would choose to go anywhere when the peace of God has already been given to you? Yeah, I feel that way. Especially during the many years I was spending going back and forth to India several times a year. I encountered a number of different perspectives on the spiritual journey, but one that's really prevalent among a lot of seekers in India is the pursuit of moksha. So there's mukti, jivan mukti. Mukti means liberation. Jivan mukti, jivan means in the body, incarnate. So jivan mukti is to pursue full spiritual liberation while still alive in this body in the present incarnation, which has an incredible effect on the world. The other thing that is typical that people seek in the Indian spiritualities is moksha. Moksha is final liberation after transition from this present physical body. If you get liberated here and now in your body, it's mukti. Mukti's great. If at the end, when you come to before the light, there's a choice to return and be reincarnated, or to merge with the light no more individual incarnation or manifestation. I always, I understand it. It's kind of, I think, it's obvious why that would be appealing, but I come from a mix of various traditions in my background. I started out as a Taoist, but with many connections to the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. I met Kuan Yin, Avalokiteshvara, very early on in my path. Avalokiteshvara was a direct disciple of Siddhartha Buddha, who was the first bodhisattva. Avalokiteshvara is the Lord who looks down, or the one who listens to the suffering of the people. And Avalokiteshvara went, we're all one. I'm not really free unless we're all free. So Avalokiteshvara made a commitment to remain here now with humanity until all sentient beings are liberated. And only then would Avalokiteshvara pass on into nirvana. In traveling to Tibet, in Tibetan Buddhism, Avalokiteshvara became the one called Chenrezig, who is the patron saint of Tibet. Then in traveling farther east into China and Japan, Avalokiteshvara morphed actually into Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion. But all of those are manifestations of the bodhisattva of compassion. So once you've discovered the peace of God, here and now, there is nowhere to go. There's no one to go anywhere, and there's nowhere to go. There's just here and now. And so I mean, that question sparks a lot of thoughts in me.
I think the only where to go would to be deeper and deeper in the presence, wherever you are. And then you're not really going anywhere. You're just being in the present moment and shining your light and showing others that there is inner peace from God. Oh, that's not. There we go.
That helps. I think we heard you.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Probably picked up on your mic.
Picked it up. So Jennifer writes, do you have access to an English translation of the lyrics to your usual opening song? My daughter and I sing along sometimes, but we're just imitating the sounds without knowing what we're saying. Yes, I will. I'll dig that up and I'll message it to you through Facebook. But
or you could just post it.
Basically, it's an invocation of the blessing of Ganesh. Om Gam Ganapataye. Ganapataye is one of the names to call on Ganesh, the elephant-headed deity, and Namaha is like a bow, a sort of surrender and bow of acknowledgement. Paying homage.
Yeah.
There you go. It's hard to find translations of some of these words, but it is, Namaha is like a bow of recognition and opening. So it's this little guy here. He's always sitting, behind us is a picture of Christ that was painted by the wife of the founder of Ashaya's Ascension, which is a particular group who actually began in India. And they were visited by one of the apostles of Christ after the crucifixion and resurrection, and he gave them a very beautiful expression of Christic spirituality, kind of mixed with mantra and all of that. And we really like that painting. It was gifted to us by Gomati and Fasista Ishaya. And then over here, on the right, your right, is a beautiful statue of Kuan Yin, who's the one I was talking about, the first bodhisattva. And over here, on this side, is Ganesh. And he's very popular in southern India. I mean, there are like 30 million Hindu gods, but this one's very popular. He's the body of a chubby boy with the head of an elephant. And he's not at all intimidating. He's funny, he's fun, he dances and plays, and he really helps seekers on the path. With
removing of obstacles.
removing of obstacles, yeah. So
pretty much every car in India would have a little figure of Ganesh right on their dashboard.
one of those plastic figures
For
like
removing
Jesus and
obstacles.
Mary, but over there it'll be Ganesh. Might even have a bobblehead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And if you've ever ridden in a car in India, you would understand
the need for
removal of obstacles. Especially when the cows start crossing the road. All the traffic stops.
So we knew someone, still know him. He drops in every once in a while. I don't need to name him, but he's an Indian, of Indian birth and descent, a businessman who was a top executive in a Fortune 200 business. I mean, ultra successful. And he dropped out of the business world to pursue the spiritual journey. And one of the things he did early on in this transition in his life was to pray the Ganesh mantra, that mantra, like 100,000 times. And he invited anyone who wanted to send them his name. And he held us all in intent and prayed and chanted that mantra nonstop. When he woke up in the night, it would be going on inside of him, but he'd take it up. And he did that continually for months on end. And yeah, it's a very cool mantra. So if you're feeling like things are kind of rocky on your road and you could use some grace and a little cushioning, I highly recommend Kuan Yin, Lord Christ, and Lord Ganesh. Yeah, More says, beautiful song. Yes, it is indeed. So any other questions, comments, insights?
Should we tell them about our encounter on the beach tonight?
Sure.
So we were taking our walk on the beach, and this man who's wearing a T-shirt with Christ's face on it.
He looked kind of a little disheveled.
Yeah, and his T-shirt said "The Greatest Love" with the picture of Christ on it. And
big face of Christ.
Yeah, big face of Christ. And he said very quietly, he said, "Seen any shark's teeth?" And I said, "Nope, just garbage." And Michael said,
"I'm always scanning for them, but I almost never see one." And he said, "Oh." And we walked on a few steps, and Suzanne looked down, and guess what?
It was a shark's tooth.
A perfect, a fossilized black, jet black fossilized shark's tooth, which we literally almost never find. I mean, once every few years we might encounter. And we thought, what should we do with this? And Suzanne said, let's give it to him. He was looking for shark's teeth. So we turned around. We'd only gone a few feet. And he was gone. He disappeared. So we're kind of scratching our heads wondering who that old guy was. You seen any shark's teeth? And then boom, there it is.
Yeah.
And I had that happen once before. That's where it ties in. And I was going through a very hard time in life. And one of the things I did back then, this was 25 years ago probably, is I used to walk on the beach a lot. That's my place to recombobulate and get inspiration and peace in nature. And I'm walking along, and I'm sort of, I guess I'm having a dialogue with God on the inside, you know, sort of in prayer. And this still small voice spoke to me and said, "It's going to be okay. You just need to trust me. This is all going to work out. I got you covered." And I said, I said, I think my mind is just messing with me. If that's really you talking to me, then give me a shark's tooth, because in the 50 years I'd been almost in Florida up to that point, I never found one, not once. And I said, so if that's really you talking to me, show me a shark's tooth. And I looked down, and right in front of me in the sand is a 2-inch fossilized shark's tooth. It's so there's this little history of the divine speaking to us through shark's teeth.
Another member of the local community here, she was frustrated in her spiritual path, and she had this beautiful story that they came here for an event, and then they were going out to go swimming in the Gulf of Mexico, and she was really frustrated, and she said, God, if you're really here for me, would you, give me a sign? And she has never seen a dolphin since she's been here. She's never seen a dolphin out in the water.
For a number of years.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, right in front of her, like 10 feet away, a bunch of dolphins came up and went back down and kept swimming, and it brought her to tears, just tears of joy, because it was just such a sign, because she had just asked for it and she'd never seen one, and she was really excited.
I recently told her that shark's tooth story too.
Yeah.
So she was thinking about how the divine presence can speak through nature.
Right.
Now, you can go too far with that. I mean, no, you can't go too far with the divine manifesting, but with asking for signs. Like Gideon's fleece, it's a Bible story. We're not going to tell the Bible story, but the fleece had to come up wet or come up dry, depending on what Gideon wanted God to do to prove that he was hearing from God. Thing is, if we rely too much on external signs,
right,
then the trickster can come in and fool us. The important thing is to listen to your heart. And it isn't always a voice like I've described. It's just a knowing, a peace in your heart that you just have a peace about a certain direction you feel intuitively you should go. And that's the way the divine speaks most of the time.
Right.
It's not through a psychedelic vision across the sky, written in letters and prismatic colors. It's not usually a booming voice or some strange man who walks up to you in a white robe with a long beard saying, "I have been sent to you." We'd all love those kinds of experiences. And it does happen. Okay, so keep the door wide open, but go for that humbler, quieter reliance on the intuitive wisdom of your heart. It'll never lead you astray. Morey writes, today I had to open the space to feel and accept all the anger, frustration, sadness, and resistance that I may have accumulated. Is there a better way to do it? Mm-hmm. Should I surrender to feel these emotions until they end? Opening to the space. I assume we're talking about the space. When we talk about holding space and opening to the space, we're talking about the infinite space of the presence, the source from which we all come. It's been described as void. It's been described as an infinite ocean of pure awareness and energy that's alive. And in our work at Flowering Heart, we're constantly invoking the presence. We're cultivating the awareness of noticing the space between each breath. Because between each breath, inhale and exhale, there's just a moment that if you pay attention, begin to tune in, where there's just nothing. Or it seems like nothing, but it's really everything. That space opens between the breaths into the infinite, eternal presence without beginning, without end, unbounded by time or space. That's also present between thoughts. If you're struggling with a thought, just tune into the space, because a thought will not last forever, and you're not generating them. Thoughts are not yours, they're just coming through. You're witnessing them, you're the witness. So notice the space between when that thought's done and the next thought comes. Again, there's that opening like between the breaths. And so it is, I'm not sure there's a better thing to do than keep letting go. And it's true with emotions and charges. A feeling will come up. It will only last so long. And while it lasts, the best thing to do, I wouldn't say surrender to anger, because we all know that doesn't always work out so well. But what can you do? So don't judge it. Okay, there's anger, which can frequently be destructive, but there it is. So when it arises in your space, you accept that feeling without resistance. That doesn't mean you surrender yourself to it. So it's tricky. Surrender is understood in various ways. You have no choice but to surrender to the fact that a particular thought, a particular emotion, a particular charge has just emerged in your consciousness. There it is. It's a big mistake to resist it, because any feeling we resist will just be there for us to feel later on. It won't go away. Some of us become really good at suppressing our emotions and unpleasant thoughts into the unconscious. The fact that we're unconscious of them doesn't mean they're not there. It just means they're controlling us in a way we're not conscious of. So they get triggered and they come up. And when they come up, this is a chance. If we don't resist it, and we don't judge it and go, oh, I'm bad, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm feeling resistance, frustration, and anger. Well, okay, there's a lot going on in the world right now that if you're the slightest bit human and have any compassion and empathy, I think would trigger frustration and anger. But don't judge it. That is one of the perfectly legitimate feelings that human beings experience. Anger is often, in its pure form, is the energy to confront an injustice appropriately. It doesn't need to lead to acting out in inappropriate ways or damaging ways, but it has to be pure. And we're on a journey, getting more clear. So there it is. Don't judge it. Don't judge yourself. It is what it is. Allow yourself to feel it without resistance, but don't stew in it.
Okay.
And that's where surrender, a lot of people, when they get this message of just being with the charge until it discharges, which is what it's the right thing to do. In meditation, when a charge comes up, accept it, feel it, and let it go. Don't stew in it. And that's the trick. So when you notice yourself stewing in it, that's when I begin to shift my awareness, and not with any resistance, but to the space of the presence.
And ask for grace. Yeah. Ask for grace and enter into that space of grace. Because oftentimes these charges are bouncing around and emotions are bouncing around, and it's just triggering our mind and our ego to have a response and to have an action, or to have thoughts or the story that's attached to whatever the charge is. And when you slip back into your heart, which is peace and calmness, not chaos and drama, when we slip back into our hearts while this is coming up, we can oftentimes get deeper insights as to where that's coming from, because we're not thinking from our mind and our ego. We're listening to what our heart is saying, and that's where the real healing can take place.
But you don't need to see where it came from.
Right.
What you need to do is allow it to express. When it expresses, it will dissipate. The reason it's still there is we've never allowed it to express, to fully be experienced. And we've even resisted it. All psychological suffering is resistance to feeling something in the present moment. You ask here, is there a better way to do it than just being with it and opening to the presence? That's the heart of it. And I don't know if there's a better way. There are other methods that can be an adjunct. For instance, there's something called Samskara Shooti, which is a process that we did quite a bit of in India. Samskaras are like, I'm going to simplify it, it's like the scar tissue that forms around your spiritual heart because of all the trauma you've endured. And all those scars are there, and that scar tissue is keeping our hearts kind of encapsulated and numb. Okay. Shooti means to clear, to release. So Samskara Shooti is the release, the healing, the dissolving of the spiritual and emotional scar tissue around the spiritual heart. So in Samskara Shooti, there's actually the word effort is coming to mind, in intention, and I guess there is some effort involved for sure. It's work. to really go into the feeling. So if you have this sad feeling because something happened between you and a parent when you were a child, or maybe you lost a parent or a friend and you're carrying that pain still, in Samskara Shooti, you welcome that emotion that has been crippling you, and you totally give yourself to the expression of it. Maybe you never let yourself grieve and weep, or maybe if it was a parent who hit you or spoke abusively to you as a child, you could never speak back to that parent, but now you can go off by yourself and scream, "Why did you ruin my life? You hurt me so much," and you can actually talk to that parent or that person, whether they're still in the flesh or not. Because what you're really dealing with is that part of them that's living in you. As you deal with that, it's interesting, the relationship with that spirit will heal. Even if they have passed beyond this life, they've transitioned, or you haven't spoken in 30 years. A lot of people that go through a healing process like Samskara Shooti will suddenly get a phone call from that family member that they haven't spoken to in 30 years because they did the inner work. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. It works out. But that kind of thing where you completely give yourself to the pain and the intense emotion and express what the inner child could never, the screaming, the crying, the yelling, that really should be done under adept guidance, in my opinion. I mean, just like if I was talking to, some psychotherapist, there's some very intense processes you can take people through, but they need to be guided by a skillful leader. And that's true of a lot of these spiritual processes. So, and breath work, holotropic breath work, or some of the new forms that have emerged around that. Actually, that stuff came out of Kriya Yoga out of India too. The holotropic breathwork movement, and I'm not going to go into names, but the people that brought that back, that was one of the Kriya methods taught by Babaji in the Kriya Yoga tradition. But it involves like lying on the ground and breathing deeply. And just keep going, even when you feel lightheaded or you feel scary stuff coming up. And that is helping countless people now release and bring up emotional trauma that was frozen in the unconscious. So sometimes it is helpful to have more than just holding space and waiting for it to happen, which is what a lot of good meditation techniques are. You enter into a state of passive awareness of the eternal witness. And in that state, quite naturally, the unconscious material buried within you will begin to spontaneously come up. But that process, just sitting in meditation, could take 20 or 30 years, So to add with it some yogic breath work, some work with Samskara Shooti, with various other modalities can be very helpful. Not better, but an adjunct to invoking grace and the presence and just experiencing the junk coming up. Good question.
Yeah.
Thanks for your courage, and because I know what you share from week to week, that you really have been really courageously facing the shadows, and I just kudos for that. Thank you. It helps the world. I mean, Carl Jung, who really the father of depth psychology, which is very popular these days, and into dreams and altered states of consciousness and visions. Jung said if you really want to help the world, the outer world's a reflection of the inner world. He said that before that Indian teacher did. And actually it comes from the emerald tablets of Thoth, which come out of Egypt. But that's another story. But Jung said that if you really want to help the world, then own your own shadows. Stop projecting your shadows on other people. We do that when we say, oh, you're an angry, miserable person. I'm not. You're an unpleasant person. I'm not. And so anytime we actually are judging someone outside of ourselves, it's a part of ourselves that we're rejecting, because we're all one. And he said, so if you really want to help the world, face your shadows and do the inner shadow work. He also said that's incredibly difficult and courageous. So anytime I see somebody doing it,
thank you.
Thank you.
Starts one person at a time being able to heal at a very deep level like that. And once we're able to heal there, we start to have compassion for others because we've experienced very deeply anger, pain, sadness. And the best therapists that I've ever seen have been the ones that have just really been through the ringer and made it through the other side and can help guide and show people the way. And holding space and unconditional love because you've been there before where that person is a very powerful thing to do.
I don't know if I understand this, and I'm going to be silly when I get it, but Jennifer writes, all these toothless sharks swimming around going, quote, cut it out, you guys, unquote.
Well, this was a fossil, so it was a while ago when this shark lost it.
He's been without his teeth a long time. Oh, yeah, but, yeah. There must be a lot of toothless sharks because the divines had to take so many teeth to answer us with these teeth.
There's actually a local character who goes shark tooth hunting in muddy flats and sandy clay areas and finds just a ton of megalodon sharks.
These ones that they get to be like 6 inches. That's a big one that's worth thousands of dollars, that big. But it's not on, if you know where to go in Florida, there are tons of them there.
They'll find a few hundred of them in one evening. It's crazy.
Well, that would be rare. He's
showing so many of how many they're probably splicing the video together, but it looks like every few seconds they're finding it.
Well, he's found countless tens of thousands of dollars worth over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And he's not telling everybody where he's going. Yeah. So any other questions while we're still out here swimming with toothless sharks?
Isn't it funny how we can put a value on a shark's tooth?
Well, they're very rare.
I know that, but it's just funny to me that, just because somebody says that it's worth something, then it's like there's a value set in. Yeah.
It's like T-Rex move aside. Megalodon was the largest predator that has ever existed that we're aware of, that we've ever found yet, existed on the face of the earth. I mean, could have made a meal of T-Rex. Which is not for Satsang. Let's get back on track. All right. Okay. Give it another minute and then we will dive into the next portion. Yeah, about, imitating the sounds of mantras, like the Ganesh mantra, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, is it's Sanskrit mantra, and it is the science of spiritual vibration. So the thought that the divine source manifested the universe by releasing the vibration of creation, which a Christian or a Hebrew believer might say God spoke the universe into existence. So something like that. But those mantras were never used. Sanskrit was never used for people to converse with each other. It was always used in prayer and meditation. And those words express vibrations that open doors to altered states of higher consciousness. And so, it's an amazing phenomenon. So what I'm saying is, to make a longer story shorter, is that even if you don't know the meaning of the words, if you intone them correctly, which is kind of important with mantra, then it will have the desired effect, even if you don't know that you were just invoking the elephant-headed god. So, yeah, but mantra is more powerful when you know the meaning of the words, and even more powerful when the words are expressed with intention from your heart, knowing what they mean. So I'll definitely get a translation to you. Okay. All right, I guess there are no more questions right at the moment. So, let me invite everyone to close your eyes and dive into your spiritual heart. That's simply the center of your being. We've looked far and wide on the outside. We've looked high and low for the divine. We've looked for enlightenment. We've looked for so many spiritual blessings and truths out there, everywhere. When it turned out that when you go deep enough inside into the center of your being, you come to your true divine self, your sacred self. And it is none other than Atma, the divine source itself. We are one being, all of us, the entire universe. Think about the word. Una means one, verse. The universe is one word, one being, manifesting through myriad forms. When you go deep enough inside, you come to this place at the center of your being that's pure light and pure love. And that is the divine source. It is fully enlightened. It is enlightenment itself. And it is fully divine. It is the divine. And it is your true self. You, in your essence, in your source, are enlightened and fully God realized. Invite, invoke the presence that dwells within you to manifest to you. Invoke the presence. This presence is all-powerful and all-knowing, and it is pure unconditional love. There is no distance between you and this presence. You are made of this presence. You live in this presence. And it loves you without judgment, unconditionally. Just open yourself to receive it. This is the Flowering Heart blessing. Simply to receive the outpouring of grace gushing from the center of your being and pouring down on you and flooding you from every side. There's nothing for you to do but accept and receive the blessing of the presence. It already knows what you need and yearns to free you and to heal you. Spirit, soul, and body, relationships in every area of your life. Welcome the grace of the presence. imagine all of us sitting in a circle together with our eyes closed, a blessing circle. And let us invite the presence to pour the grace of the flowering heart blessing through each and every one of us to all the others in the circle. You could just lift up your hands with your palms open, turn forward, and invite the divine presence to use you as an instrument of grace for the flowering heart blessing, knowing that everyone else in the circle is inviting the presence to flow through them back to you as well. Now let's visualize, imagine the planet Earth in the center of our circle. The beautiful, living blue planet, Gaia, Holy Mother Earth. Let us take a strong intention and invite the divine to pour blessing and grace through us to bring healing to the earth, to the lands, the waters, and the skies, to all the creatures, all the beings sharing this planet with us. May they be flooded with light and healing and grace. May this beautiful planet thrive and be made whole. And let us take an intent for all those 7.5 to 8 billion humans on this planet and ask the divine to bring awakening and the flowering of true compassion and unconditional love in the heart of every human being on this planet. And with that awakening of the human heart throughout the earth, may war cease everywhere and be replaced with peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And when you're ready, you can relax your hands and open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me as we enter the light meditation. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes. That's all you need to do. The divine presence floods Suzanne and me at this time, and grace begins to pour through every part of our being, but especially through our eyes, which are the doorways of the soul. As you just keep looking, that light streams out through our eyes, in through your eyes, into your spiritual heart, causing the flames of awakening and divine love to shine brighter and brighter within you, bringing awakening, flowering, and transformation. your eyes now. Meditate with us for a few more minutes as the grace we've received settles within us. Now keep meditating as long as you want to. You could also find a place nearby to lie down in Shavasana. It's a very nice thing to do. You lie on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just let yourself dissolve in gratitude in the presence. It's just a lovely thing. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Until the next time we cross paths, know that the divine in us beholds and acknowledges the divine in you. And we bow to you. Namaste.
Namaste.